Hustleburg. This podcast is all about small business in St. Petersburg, Florida, how the business owners got started, how they built their business, and how they serve our community. I'm Brett Bittner, and I'm the host of Hustleburg, and I started Beyond Your Side Hustle, a marketing firm where we help budding entrepreneurs go beyond their side hustles and ditch their 9-to-5s. As the founder of a small business here in St. Pete myself, I love meeting and talking with fellow small business owners. Lucky for you, I also like to record those conversations for you to listen to. If you find anything of value in this episode, I encourage you to subscribe to the podcast because there are probably more nuggets in other episodes, both past and upcoming. It would also be great if you rate and review the episode to let us know what you got out of the conversation. If you have a question about marketing, building your brand, or operating your small business that you'd like to have answered on a Q&A episode, please visit beyondyoursidehustle.com/podcast question to submit it. Thank you for joining us for episode number 26 of Hustleburg. This is the second in a series specifically related to answering your questions about Twitter. We've similarly done 2 episode platform-specific Q&As previously about LinkedIn in episodes number 20 and 22, and we have done so for Instagram in episodes 16 and 18, and we have also done them for Facebook in episodes 12 and 14. In this Q&A episode, we have several questions specific to Facebook, and the first one of those is going to be from Teresa, where she asks, is Twitter considered a more casual platform than Facebook or LinkedIn? What is the main difference in the ways to use Twitter and the best ways to use it? So we're going to jump right into why there is a more casual tone on Twitter. As we noted in the last Q&A episode, the demo and psychographics of Twitter, especially the ones that are showing how much younger it skews than Facebook or LinkedIn, and even Instagram to a slight degree, those demographics are going to change the tone that's used in conjunction with the formerly exceptionally short 140 character limit that led to some very creative ways to get a message across. The language and tone on Twitter does tend to be more casual than on other platforms, particularly Facebook when it's used for business, and especially on when compared to LinkedIn. And there's a similar casualness to Instagram, mostly driven by its primary age demographic. Now, back in the dark ages of Twitter, we're talking 2006 until November of 2017, users had to communicate the entirety of their thought in only 140 characters, which is the length of a standard text message in the pre-smartphone days. Now, this limitation led to many innovations in the brevity game. It brought us URL shorteners, it brought us graphic memes, and the best of all, it brought us Hemingwayism, which is a way that we are able to make ourselves better writers by forcing us to get rid of unnecessary words. These things combined, these innovations, made Twitter unreadable to many who haven't adjusted to the new age of communication where a GIF can be an adequate and completely understood response. These also help the cool kids of Twitter to know who is a newbie on the platform, fumbling their way around all this brave new world of communication. Now, in the last episode, we covered a bit of the Twitter-specific lingo, though you'll probably need to spend a bit more time on the platform reading, or maybe find a Gen Z mentor to understand all the ins and outs of the abbreviations, the definitions of the words that you've never seen before, and how an image can serve as a complete thought. Now, these efforts to condense thoughts through abbreviation, image sharing, and omitting the unnecessary will certainly not confuse users for William Faulkner. They will, however, come across as a more casual conversation on the surface, but that is a feature, not a bug. Part of the beauty of such a platform is how you present your thoughts in a concise way. You're able to link to external sources to provide context, or you're offering commentary to a link that you want people to read. Now you have a 280 character limit as of November 2017 to offer commentary to a video or a photo or a link. And we just saw in the last week or so the new audio tweet functionality, which gives a new dimension to sharing content specific to voice, and it will likely be viewed as even more casual than the current state of affairs. To me, it feels like the more that we democratize information sharing with the internet and social media, it moves further away from a network news story or a printed newspaper, the more casual the platform or the medium is perceived. Now, keep in mind that many users of Twitter like the casual perception and use it over other platforms primarily for that reason. My partner, for example, absolutely loves Twitter, spending more time on it as her main social media outlet, while I prefer building connections on LinkedIn and Facebook, although TikTok is winning lately for the edutainment value that it offers. Our next question comes from Eric asking, how do I best promote my business within the character limit of Twitter? So we've discussed the casualness of the platform. We've discussed some of the lingo and how the character limit, which changed to 280 characters in November 2017, have shaped the conversations on Twitter. Listeners of the Hustleburg podcast are probably already listing what I'll say in response to this question because they've likely heard it in response to questions about other platforms. Obviously, adding value to the communities you create and participate in is the best way to participate in the conversation that is social media. And if you're not sure where to start when you're creating content for this platform or for any platform, examine the 5 areas of focus that we've discussed in detail previously, also known as the 5. And for new listeners, if you visit beyondyoursidehustle.com/the5, you'll find an in-depth look at the 5 areas of content where you should be focused when you are creating the content that you put out digitally to market yourself and market your business. Briefly, here they are. It's the main thing that you do, 2 things that are related to that main thing, and 2 things that are a bit more personal to show your community that you are indeed a real person and not a robot or a completely bland cardboard cutout. And Twitter lends itself to including more of the personal content than you probably would share on LinkedIn, Instagram, or a Facebook page. The content that you create for Twitter should revolve around those 5 main areas of focus, but you should be also looking to add value in those areas in the content that others create. We're going to go into this a little more in depth later in this episode, but by replying to their tweets, retweeting content that they create that falls within your 5 areas of focus and you think will add value, and ensuring that you're having the conversation that is social media is going to go a lot further than just broadcasting the content that you create. You have the opportunity to share images, videos, links. You also now have the ability to share your voice on Twitter through audio tweets. So you should use a mix of the tools that are available to you so that you can add value to the people that you bring into the community that you're creating. When you take a look and focus on those 5 areas of focus, you're going to bring people into the community that you're creating and build relationships with that community. And those relationships are going to be what sustains your business far longer than just blasting the platform with what you have to say about your content over and over and over again. So you have, in this case, an opportunity to use a variety of media on a platform that is very casual in tone, and you're going to be able to create content that uses that more casual tone and context for the 5 focus areas that you have to engage and build a community. Our next question for this Q&A episode comes from Lauren, and she asks, what is the best way to organically gain a following on Twitter? Is it using hashtags, following people in the community, or something else entirely? So my answer for you, Lauren, is the tools are available for you to grow your community on every platform organically. Twitter has some that are particularly useful. The first thing that we're going to talk about is following other users for growth. As we discussed earlier in this episode, adding value to the community in your 5 areas of focus is the place to start, but that does not mean posting tweet after tweet, broadcasting using a megaphone to shout on those 5 topics. You should be building relationships within those 5 areas of focus. And you can do that by finding and following relevant players in your industry and the other areas of focus that you have. That will give you an opportunity to converse and interact quickly and easily from your feed. You should not be mentioning them in tweets just to make them aware of your presence or that you're broadcasting. Instead, utilizing those mentions for circumstances where you actually add something to the conversation that's already existing that they are a part of or should be a part of. And when it comes to following other users, absolutely do not use a follow-unfollow system to try to game your follower following count. Other users on the platform are under no obligation to follow you back, so don't expect it. And there is no competition to collect followers. In fact, if you have a large number of unengaged or irrelevant followers, it will dampen your efforts to actually engage with the community and the conversation that's taking place. You may have expectations that a certain number of followers will yield certain results with regard to engagement, and at the end of the day, it really has more to do with how you engage with your community on the platform. The accounts that you follow should be those who will add value to your experience on the platform. And rather than expecting a follow back, you should earn their follow with your interactions and building a relationship with them. You'll also notice that those who don't engage on Twitter won't be as valuable to you as a user. Now, when I see a user who has way more followers than accounts they follow, it shows me that they care more about broadcasting than adding value to the conversations that they didn't start. They likely don't value the relationships using the platform can foster and probably don't engage enough to make the most of them. They're literally just using Twitter as another medium to promote themselves, like shouting through a megaphone, not participating in a meaningful way in the conversation that is social media. Now, you also asked about hashtags, and in fact, the next question in this episode is specific about hashtags, so this one's going to be kind of brief and an overview. Hashtags, as we talked about in the Instagram and LinkedIn Q&A episodes, are going to have value for their ability to direct conversations about a particular topic. As with those platforms, I suggest keeping up with the hashtags that are relevant to your 5 areas of focus, using them to navigate the existing conversations where you can participate and add value. They can be useful to include in your tweets, but you should first use them to find what's already being said to see if you can add to that conversation. Your use of them should be to add your voice to the conversation rather than hijacking a hashtag. If you aren't adding value to that conversation, you're just adding to the noise instead of sending a signal that others will respond to. So in addition to using Twitter's built-in tools, sticking to your areas of focus, you should be your authentic self, whether tweeting for your personal brand or as your business. Far too often, I see people who present themselves one way online when they are a completely different person IRL in real life. You will be found out, so go ahead and just start with authenticity. There's no reason to pretend to be someone else because you'll never be more than a second-rate version of them. Our next question comes from Steve, and it has me delving a little bit more into how to best utilize hashtags. Steve asks, how do I best utilize hashtags on Twitter? Should I even bother using them? Yes, you should absolutely use hashtags, though the reasons and methods that I'm about to outline for using them probably aren't what you think. If you're new to the platform, hashtags seem like a way to have your content included in an existing conversation, and that's 100% the case. For example, if you want to tweet your thoughts about Tom Brady joining the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, most users would likely append those thoughts on him joining the Bucs with a hashtag TB12 and call it a day. Don't be like most users. While your brilliance is now a part of that directed conversation of what Brady will or won't add to the Tampa Bay offense or the locker room, and what the Patriots lose as well because of your inclusion of that particular hashtag on the tweet, you're only using hashtags in first gear. You haven't unlocked the full power of them for Twitter or for any platform where they are relevant by having your tweet or comment or post included in the stream of the conversation that's ongoing. Your voice and thoughts as a part of that conversation will most certainly be noticed more than if you hadn't used the hashtag, but you're missing out on second, third, fourth, and fifth gears in your Twitter car, okay? Earlier in this episode, we touched on using hashtags to help you grow your community organically. While it was touched on, we're saving the best and highest use of hashtags. The best and highest use of hashtags is to locate where you are able to add value for other users. You're using this location tool like when you take Google Maps to the bank to find the conversations where you are going to be able to add value. When you use hashtags in this way to find the relevant conversations to your 5 areas of focus, you'll grow the community that you're building on Twitter. And because you're seeking out existing conversations and participating in them this way, you're also more focused on interacting instead of broadcasting. Interacting through replies, mentions, and retweets are a far stronger method for growing the size of the community you're building in terms of numbers. You're also collaborating with others in your 5 focus areas to strengthen their communities as a member of those communities as well, rather than just using a shared interest to pad your follower count, which, as we talked about a little bit ago, is kind of a useless metric if you don't engage with that community. When you search for these existing conversations, you'll also find the right people to follow. These people will be adding value to your experience on Twitter because you'll see their content in your feed rather than having to look for it. By having it in your feed, it's going to be easier to engage with, so the most important part of the conversation, that is social media, is closer to you with less effort. And the final question for this Q&A episode is going to be, what are your thoughts on an auto DM or direct message after connecting with someone? Well, in case I wasn't clear in the LinkedIn Q&A episode about a similar question, people who have an auto DM the moment that you follow each other are on par with the email spammers trying to get you to buy Canadian Viagra, take the riches that they have due to their Nigerian royalty, or to accept the lottery winnings for a game that you never played overseas. In short, don't do it. Instead of immediately hitting a new connection over the head with your online catalog, ebook, or a link to your podcast, instead build a relationship with them where you provide each other value. Converse, interact, engage. Be so valuable to their Twitter feed that they look forward to each and every tweet about your 5 focus areas, or maybe the 1 or 2 that intersect with the things that they talk about. Be so giving that they seek out how you can help them when the time is right. In a situation like an auto DM where you jump straight to an ask immediately upon meeting someone digitally, you set the tone for every future encounter to be one that is transactional just like that, rather than one that is based on building a relationship. Once that tone is set, you may never add enough value to make up for your faux pas at the start of your relationship. You may not even get the chance because they've already written you off as someone who is trying to get rather than someone who is trying to give. On LinkedIn and frequently on Twitter, I find myself no longer connecting with or unfollowing somebody who sends me an auto DM immediately after we're connected because, generally speaking, it's an ask. Finally, automated is impersonal and generic. How would you feel to be welcomed into a community in the same way everyone else is? Are you the same as the other 7.5 billion people on the planet? Are you even the same as any one other person in the world? If you don't want to be communicated with in that bland, impersonal, and generic way, why would they? So basically, don't send the auto DM, guys. You did it. You've just listened to Hustleburg. To thank you for listening, I have a free guide to help you get started marketing your business online, aptly named our Getting Started Guide, available at beyondyoursidehustle.com/gettheguide. See how to begin with the first 3 things you should be doing for your business online. Speaking of businesses, if you're a small business owner in St. Pete and you'd like to be a guest on an episode of the podcast, let us know at beyondyoursidehustle.com/podcastguest. If you got something of value from this podcast, please take a moment to subscribe, rate, and review on your favorite podcast player. This is something small you can do to help us shine the spotlight on all the great businesses St. Pete has to offer. The music in this episode is Defining Your Dreams by my friend Rhymer Educator. On May 28th, he released a mixtape entitled Quentin Quarantino about loneliness during the COVID-19 pandemic, and I encourage you to check it out on Spotify, iTunes, or wherever you listen to great music. Thanks so much for listening, and we look forward to sharing with you how we do business in the Burg.